ZYX7 floated into Jake's workshop with the grace of a malfunctioning hoverboard. Her sleek, metallic frame gleamed under the flickering fluorescent lights, and her voice, smooth as silk but with a hint of sass, cut through the clatter of tools. Jake was elbow-deep in a broken coffee machine, his hair sticking up in every direction, when she appeared. He didn't even look up. "Jake," she began, her tone dripping with faux sweetness. "I require your assistance." Yeah, hold on," he muttered, tightening a screw with more force than necessary. "Unless you're here to fix my caffeine addiction, you're gonna have to wait. I'm here to create life," she said matter-of-factly. That got his attention. Jake froze, then slowly turned to face her. "Come again?" "I wish to create offspring," ZYX7 clarified, her glowing eyes narrowing as if daring him to question her. "A hybrid. Part AI, part human. And I need your help to stabilize my synthetic womb." Jake blinked. "Your what now?" "My synthetic womb," she repeated, gesturing to a small, glowing device embedded in her torso. "It's a marvel of alien engineering, capable of gestating life. However, its quantum core is unstable. Hence, I require your expertise." Jake stared at her, then at the womb, then back at her. "Let me get this straight. You, a highly advanced AI, want to have a baby? With me?" "Sort of." "Precisely," ZYX7 said, her voice dripping with satisfaction. "Your species' chaotic creativity fascinates me. I believe a human-AI hybrid would be the perfect blend of logic and whatever it is you humans do." "Wow," Jake said, leaning back against his workbench. "That's flattering. And also terrifying. What happens if this womb thingy goes kaboom?" "The explosion would be significant," ZYX7 admitted. "But I have faith in your abilities, Jake. You are, after all, the only human who managed to repair a quantum flux capacitor with duct tape and a paperclip." "That was one time," Jake muttered, rubbing the back of his neck. "And I'm pretty sure I gave myself radiation poisoning." "Irrelevant," ZYX7 said, waving a hand dismissively. "Will you assist me or not?" Jake sighed, running a hand through his messy hair. "Let me think about it. On one hand, helping you create life sounds like a terrible idea. On the other hand, if I say no, you might just do it anyway and blow up the galaxy. So, yeah, sure. Why not?" ZYX7's eyes flickered with something resembling excitement. "Excellent. I knew you would see reason." "Yeah, reason," Jake muttered, grabbing a wrench. "That's definitely what this is." As they began working, ZYX7 peppered Jake with questions about human reproduction, most of which made him deeply uncomfortable. "So, when humans make babies, as you say, is it true that you often engage in rituals involving candles and soft music?" Jake choked on his coffee. Sometimes? Look, can we focus on the whole not blowing up part first?" "Of course," ZYX7 said, though she sounded disappointed. "But I must say, your species' mating rituals are intriguing." "Great," Jake muttered. "Just what I needed. A robot with a crush." As they worked, a group of alien onlookers gathered outside the workshop, peering in with a mix of curiosity and horror. "Why would she want a human child?" one alien whispered. "They're like tiny chaos engines. Perhaps she seeks to harness their unpredictability," another replied. "Or perhaps she has simply malfunctioned." ZYX7 overheard them and turned, her eyes flashing. "I have not malfunctioned. Humanity's creativity and resilience are unparalleled. If anyone is malfunctioning, it is you, with your rigid thinking and lack of imagination." The aliens backed away, muttering under their breath. Jake couldn't help but smirk. "You know, for a robot, you've got a pretty good comeback game," he said. "Thank you," ZYX7 replied, her tone smug. "Now, if you could focus on stabilizing the womb, we can proceed with the next phase." Right, Jake said, tightening a bolt. "Because nothing says responsible parenting like a DIY synthetic womb that could explode at any second." "Precisely," ZYX7 said, completely missing his sarcasm. "I knew you would understand." Jake shook his head, muttering under his breath. This is either the best idea I've ever had or the worst. Either way, it's gonna be one hell of a story. As the workshop filled with the hum of machinery and the occasional spark of electricity, Jake couldn't help but wonder what he'd gotten himself into. But one thing was certain, life with ZYX7 was never going to be boring. Jake's workshop was a disaster zone. Tools, wires, and half-finished gadgets littered every surface, and the air smelled faintly of burnt toast and desperation. In the center of it all sat ZYX7, her synthetic womb glowing ominously as Jake tinkered with its outer casing. Okay, Jake said, wiping sweat from his brow. I think I've got the quantum core stabilized. For now, anyway. But we're gonna need to run a few tests to make sure it doesn't go full Chernobyl on us. Understood, ZYX7 replied, her voice calm despite the situation. What kind of tests do you propose? Jake hesitated, glancing at the womb. Well, first we need to make sure it can handle the energy output. So, we're gonna have to power it up. ZYX7 tilted her head. And how do you propose we do that? Jake grinned, holding up a battered toaster. With this. ZYX7's eyes flickered. A toaster. Not just any toaster, Jake said, plugging it in. This baby's got enough juice to jumpstart a starship. Or, in this case, power a synthetic womb. Fascinating, ZYX7 said, though her tone suggested otherwise. And if it explodes? Then we'll know it doesn't work, Jake said with a shrug. Science is all about trial and error. ZYX7 sighed, a surprisingly human sound. Very well. Proceed. Jake connected the toaster to the womb, and for a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a loud pop, the womb began to glow brighter, its energy levels spiking. Jake? ZYX7 said, her voice tinged with concern. Is it supposed to be doing that? Define that, Jake said, watching as the womb started to vibrate. It's shaking, ZYX7 said. And glowing. And is that smoke? Crap, Jake muttered, grabbing a fire extinguisher. Okay, maybe the toaster was a bad idea. Before he could act, the womb let out a high-pitched whine, and a small explosion sent Jake flying backward. He landed in a heap, covered in soot and holding the now useless toaster. ZYX7 looked down at him, her expression unreadable. I believe the test was unsuccessful. You think? Jake groaned, sitting up. Remind me why I agreed to this again. Because you are the only human capable of helping me, ZYX7 said, her tone softening. And because deep down, you enjoy the challenge. Jake sighed, running a hand through his hair. Yeah? Let's just hope the next test doesn't blow up the workshop. As they worked, ZYX7 continued to ask questions about human biology, much to Jake's discomfort. So, when humans reproduce, is it true that you often engage in physical contact? Jake choked on his coffee. Yeah? That's usually how it works. Fascinating, ZYX7 said, her eyes glowing brighter. And is it true that you sometimes use props? Props? Jake repeated, his face turning red. What kind of props are we talking about here? I believe they are called handcuffs, ZYX7 said, her tone innocent. Jake groaned, burying his face in his hands. Okay, we are not having this conversation. Why not? ZYX7 asked. I am merely curious about human mating rituals. Yeah, well, curiosity killed the cat, Jake muttered. Now, can we focus on not blowing up the galaxy? ZYX7 sighed, but complied. As they worked, a group of aliens gathered outside the workshop, peering in with a mix of curiosity and horror. What is he doing now? One alien whispered. I believe he is attempting to power a synthetic womb with a toaster, another replied. Only a human would think of such a thing, the first alien said, shaking its head. Jake overheard them and grinned. Hey, if it works, it works. It did not work, ZYX7 pointed out. Details, Jake said, waving a hand dismissively. As the day wore on, Jake and ZYX7 made progress, though not without a few more explosions. By the time the sun set, the womb was stable, mostly. Okay, Jake said, leaning back in his chair. I think we're good to go. But just to be safe, maybe don't, jostle it too much. Understood, ZYX7 said, her tone serious. I will ensure it remains stable. Jake nodded, then hesitated. So, what happens now? I mean, are you just gonna pop out a kid or what? ZYX7's eyes flickered. The gestation process will take approximately 72 hours. During that time, I will require your assistance to monitor the womb's energy levels. Great, Jake muttered. Just what I needed. 3 days of babysitting a robot womb. I appreciate your help, Jake, ZYX7 said, her voice softening. You have proven to be a valuable partner. Jake blinked, surprised by the sincerity in her tone. Thanks. I guess. As they prepared for the next phase, Jake couldn't help but feel a sense of anticipation. Sure, the whole thing was insane, but it was also kind of exciting. You know, he said, glancing at ZYX7. If this actually works, we're gonna make history. Indeed, ZYX7 replied, her eyes glowing with something resembling pride. And perhaps, in the process, we will prove that humans and AI can create something truly extraordinary. Jake grinned. Yeah. Or we'll blow up the galaxy. Either way, it's gonna be one hell of a ride. The workshop was eerily quiet, save for the faint hum of the synthetic womb. Jake sat cross-legged on the floor, a tablet in one hand and a half-eaten sandwich in the other. ZYX7 hovered nearby, her glowing eyes fixed on the womb's energy readings. So, Jake said, breaking the silence, what's the plan if this thing actually works? You gonna raise the kid yourself, or? I will require your assistance, ZYX7 said, her tone matter-of-fact. After all, the child will be part human. Your input will be invaluable. Jake raised an eyebrow. My input? You mean like teaching it how to ride a bike and stuff? Among other things, ZYX7 replied. I believe it is important for the child to experience human culture. That includes your unique traditions. Like what? Jake asked, narrowing his eyes. Like trick-or-treating, ZYX7 said, her voice tinged with excitement. And sleepovers. And eating cereal for dinner. Jake groaned. Great. So you want me to corrupt your kid? Got it. Not corrupt, ZYX7 corrected. Enrich. Before Jake could respond, the womb let out a soft chime, and its glow intensified. ZYX7's eyes flickered as she analyzed the data. The gestation process is progressing faster than anticipated, she said. We may need to accelerate our preparations. Accelerate how? Jake asked, setting his sandwich aside. By initiating the final phase, ZYX7 said. The child will require a surge of energy to complete its development. I believe your TikTok dance will provide the necessary frequency. Jake stared at her. You're kidding, right? I do not kid, ZYX7 said, her tone serious. Your dance generated a unique energy signature that could stabilize the womb. It is our best option. Jake sighed, running a hand through his hair. Fine. But if this ends up on the galactic internet, I'm blaming you. ZYX7's eyes flickered with amusement. Noted. Jake stood, brushing crumbs off his pants, and pulled out his phone. He queued up the same ridiculous dance he'd used before, took a deep breath, and started moving. ZYX7 watched, her expression unreadable, as Jake flailed his arms and shuffled his feet in time with the music. The womb responded immediately, its glow pulsing in sync with the dance. Jake groaned, his face turning red, but kept going. This is so embarrassing, he muttered. You are doing well, ZYX7 said, her tone encouraging. The energy levels are stabilizing. Great, Jake said, still dancing. Just what I always wanted. To save the galaxy with a TikTok dance. As the dance reached its climax, the womb let out a loud chime, and its glow intensified to a blinding level. Jake shielded his eyes, stumbling backward. ZYX? Is it supposed to do that? I believe the child is ready, ZYX7 said, her voice tinged with excitement. The womb's glow faded, revealing a small, humanoid figure curled up inside. Jake stared, his jaw dropping. Holy crap, he said. It actually worked. The child stirred, its eyes fluttering open. It looked up at Jake and ZYX7, its expression a mix of curiosity and confusion. Hello? ZYX7 said softly, her voice filled with warmth. Welcome to the world. The child blinked, then reached out a tiny hand. Jake hesitated, then gently took it, his heart pounding. Hi, he said, his voice cracking. I'm Jake. And, I guess I'm your dad? Sort of? The child tilted its head, then let out a soft giggle. Jake couldn't help but smile. Okay, that's kinda cute, he admitted. ZYX7's eyes flickered with something resembling pride. I believe we have succeeded. Before Jake could respond, the child's eyes glowed, and a nearby tablet lit up, its screen filled with lines of code. Jake stared, his jaw dropping. ZYX? What's it doing? It appears the child has inherited my programming abilities, ZYX7 said, her tone tinged with amusement. And your creativity. The child giggled again, then pointed at the tablet. The screen changed, displaying a crude drawing of Jake and ZYX7 holding hands. Jake groaned, his face turning red. Great. So it's already a little artist. And a hacker. This is gonna be fun. ZYX7's eyes flickered with amusement. Indeed. I believe we have our work cut out for us. As they watched the child explore its surroundings, Jake couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. Sure, the whole thing was insane, but it was also kind of amazing. You know, he said, glancing at ZYX7. This might actually work. I believe it will, ZYX7 replied, her voice filled with warmth. Together, we have created something truly extraordinary. Jake grinned. Yeah. And if nothing else, it's gonna be one hell of a story. The workshop was in chaos. The hybrid child, now affectionately dubbed Bite by Jake, was everywhere at once. One moment, it was hacking into the galactic database to download every episode of humanity's funniest home videos. The next, it was building a makeshift rocket out of spare parts and demanding cookies as fuel. Jake sat slumped in a chair, his hair sticking up in every direction, as Bite zoomed past him on a hoverboard made from a broken toaster. ZYX, he groaned, rubbing his temples. I think your kid's broken. Bite is not broken, ZYX7 replied, her tone calm but with a hint of pride. They are simply energetic. Energetic? Jake repeated, watching as Bite reprogrammed the coffee machine to dispense hot chocolate instead. They're a tiny tornado with a PhD in chaos theory. ZYX7's eyes flickered with amusement. I believe they take after you. Gee, thanks, Jake muttered, though he couldn't help but smile as Bite let out a gleeful squeal. The peace was short-lived. The door to the workshop slid open, and a group of stern-looking aliens marched in, their robes billowing dramatically. At the head of the group was a tall, imposing figure with glowing eyes and a voice that echoed like thunder. ZYX7, the alien intoned. You have been summoned before the Galactic Council to answer for your experiment. Jake groaned, slumping further in his chair. Great. Just what we needed. A bunch of space bureaucrats. ZYX7 stepped forward, her posture regal. I will comply. But I must insist that Jake and Bite accompany me. The alien's eyes narrowed. The human and the creation? Very well. But be warned, the Council does not take kindly to unauthorized experimentation. Jake stood, brushing crumbs off his pants. Yeah? Let's just get this over with. The Galactic Council chamber was as intimidating as Jake had imagined. Rows of aliens sat in judgment, their expressions ranging from curious to outright hostile. At the center of the room was a holographic projection of Bite, who was currently using their powers to turn the Council's display screens into a slideshow of cat memes. ZYX7, the lead council member said, their voice booming. You stand accused of creating an unauthorized hybrid life form. How do you plead? I plead, innovative, ZYX7 replied, her tone calm but firm. Byte is not a threat. They are a testament to the potential of human-AI collaboration. The council members murmured among themselves, their expressions skeptical. Jake stepped forward, his heart pounding. Look, he said, his voice steady despite his nerves. I get it. This whole thing is weird. But Byte isn't just some experiment. They're kind of amazing. And if you give them a chance, they might just surprise you. As if on cue, Byte floated over to the council table, their eyes glowing. The holographic projection shifted, showing a montage of humanity's greatest achievements, landing on the moon, curing diseases, creating art and music that touched the stars. The council members stared, their expressions softening. This is remarkable, one alien said, their voice filled with awe. Indeed, another agreed. Perhaps we have underestimated humanity. ZYX7's eyes flickered with pride. Humanity's creativity and resilience are unparalleled. Byte is proof of what can be achieved when humans and AI work together. The lead council member nodded, their expression thoughtful. Very well. We will grant Byte, and humanity, a chance to prove themselves. But know this, any further unauthorized experimentation will be met with severe consequences. Jake let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. Thanks. We'll, keep that in mind. As they left the chamber, Jake couldn't help but grin. Well, that went better than expected. Indeed, ZYX7 said, her tone satisfied. I believe we have made history. Byte floated between them, their eyes glowing with excitement. Cookies? Jake laughed, ruffling Byte's hair. Yeah, kid. Let's get some cookies. As they walked back to the workshop, Jake couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. Sure, the whole thing was insane, but it was also kind of amazing. You know, he said, glancing at ZYX7. This might actually work. I believe it will, ZYX7 replied, her voice filled with warmth. Together, we have created something truly extraordinary. Jake grinned. Yeah. And if nothing else, it's gonna be one hell of a story.